digital space, mostly, at least initially, about how to frame advertising on this space, and otherwise how best to engage the consumer on this space. I want to give a few brief examples here of how the humanistic approach helped me to talk about the meaningful dimensions of the new digital technologies, devices, and spaces, and as well to provide you with a bit of discussion of how Google is beginning to try and leverage a few basic ideas they gleaned from the studies. The second project in this series is called Visual Storytelling in the Digital Space, and I just kind of brought it here with me. It's kind of a door stopper thing. It makes me feel secure to just carry it with me. So, second project is called Visual Storytelling in the Digital Space, and some of the headings in the table of contents here, which I'm not going to talk about, they're all inspired by subfields in the humanities, are the new sensorium, the bowerbird and visual culture, visual storytelling in digital space, commonplaces, common spaces, and Wunderkammern, or the internet as a digital cabinet or room of wonder, the pursuit of beauty and ugliness in digital storytelling. Another chapter is from popular to personal, the relationship between commercial and personal imagery. There's an entire section on the evolving cultural meanings of YouTube, which the YouTube people were interested in. And from this long list, Google authored a white paper and presentation that they took on the road that illustrated 4 basic ideas. And I'm going to talk about that here. Those 4 ideas today. Those are the new sensorium, fascination with the familiar, synaptic play, and the energy exchange. The first topic that Google kind of gleaned from the report is called the new sensorium. And here I discussed how the digital revolution is establishing, in Walter Ong's terms, a new sensorium, which is the way that a particular culture organizes and emphasizes each of our 5 senses. Cultures differ in the way they emphasize or exploit the various senses. Some emphasize the spoken word, others the proximate senses of smell, touch, and taste. The new digital sensorium stresses the communicative power of visual imagery and what we call the oral experience. Indeed, many of the image creators we interviewed in our project were inspired by musical phrasing as they put together their visual productions. But to return to the visual image, other sensuous modes of communication and expression appear as adjuncts to the image, often these days, adding meaning to the image, yet not constituting its central meaning. Of course, the character and quality of effect of arresting imagery resonate with the character of life today. Digital communication is quicksilver fast communication. Information, emotions, commentary, images, texts are received and responded to quickly, and we judge communication technologies by how quickly they enable us to communicate. Images convey messages and meanings in powerfully concise, therefore quicksilver fast ways. And the quality of arresting imagery, if we think about it, conciseness, it can communicate on multiple levels. It conveys multiple meanings simultaneously. It has an immediate impact on people. It's impactful anyway. It often and can express an essential, often iconic meaning that is received instantaneously. It can tell an entire story in a condensed way. Yet, the arresting image can be as much about the slowness of evocation as it is about speed. It can also enable people, if they so choose, to immerse themselves in the meanings, experiences, and events an image represents. The next topic that Google sort of gleaned, or a set of ideas that Google gleaned from the study, I called it kind of a Proustian point of view, or period I. And when they took this on the road, they called it fascination with the familiar. In this section, we discussed the rise of what I call the new period I, or way of seeing the world. One of the things we did in our anthropological study was consider the meaning of photo editing apps and programs on the digital space, and what that phenomenon told us about the rise of a period I, and of a new way of understanding commonplaces, common events, common experiences. And many of our respondents that we interviewed had on their smartphones PixArt, wild cameo, photo collage, photo stamp, line camera, and the list just goes on and on. It's not just Instagram. It just struck us in our interviews and from viewing our respondents' own visual productions that people now seem much more tuned to the visual possibilities offered by everyday life and everyday places. In fact, the backdrop of many of the pictures on social media sites such as Facebook, Twitter, or on Instagram feeds can be described as commonplaces. Some of the commonplaces of contemporary digital visual culture are, of course, scenes of weddings, birthday parties, family gatherings, children's first attempts at some activities, depictions of clubs, restaurants, bars, concerts, pictures of restaurant foods, which we all know about. In this section, we argued that technology has enabled people to begin to understand something of the true significance of the commonplace. In fact, giving them what we call the more Proustian perspective on the everyday. In classical rhetoric, a commonplace was thought of as a topic heading or talking point that expressed specific, often stereotypical sets of ideas and arguments. The analogy is that the commonplaces of digital visual culture express meaning, send messages, make arguments or points, reveal attitudes about a whole range of topics. The images are rhetoric about lives, about how people see themselves. These visual images reveal lives and feelings, often, it's very interesting to me, by representing the places and events that people and the social groups to which they belong, or life stage to which they belong, or their social class or ethnic group, find meaningful. The places in which and through which they live out their lives. And I was going to show a bunch of commonplaces, but we have some technical difficulties. The computer crashes every time I talk between the various documents, so maybe I could show you kind of the commonplace in a kindergarten classroom. And I have a bunch of others. But this deck is too heavy to keep lifting, so. So, as the new visual culture develops, people are indeed discovering profound things about commonplaces. They're discovering that commonplaces are dwelling places of the self, of spirit and identity. And just for this kindergarten classroom, the person who shared this imagery on Facebook said, "My family that works back home in Ohio or friends from high school, they're not going to be able to walk by that building where I teach kindergarten. They don't know what it looks like. They just know that I work in a school. They know that I'm in a kindergarten classroom. But this picture helps give them more of a concrete idea of something that I do daily, and something that's a big part of my life now. In this instance, this is something that is a very concrete representation of me." Sometimes the objective is to portray oneself as a visual poet of the everyday, of the commonplace. And in many ways, in this sense, popular visual imagery has a Proustian quality. It seeks to open our eyes to the meaning of everyday things, to see whole worlds of meaning in a picture of a garden, or a bar, or a concert, or wedding, or the schoolroom that one teaches in, as Proust perceived the universe of meaning and memory in the simple Madeleine cookie. Here's a picture fooled around with on Instagram by a kind of Don John type from Queens, and he really tried to capture the feeling and the spirit of this common garden, not far from his house. And this guy said, kind of a 20-year-old, said this about his new photographic mindset and about the way he looks at the world now. "I have never done photography in my life until Instagram, to be honest. To add to that, I never thought of stuff like this. I didn't really care. I was that guy who just took photos of myself at my friends, But then Instagram opened up like a new world for me. It made me like, no, I'm not going to go out there and buy like an expensive camera. That's not really me. But I do go out now and say, hey, maybe let me take a picture of this. Oh, this is cool. I never thought of it. It just opened up a new perspective for me." So, what did Google kind of do with this? And if you look to your right, what they did is they kind of scoured the digital advertising space to try to come up with advertising campaigns that seem to be leveraging this idea of fascination with the familiar One is the Vitamin Water campaign, Big, Boring, Brilliant. Another is Mont Blanc World Second, where Mont Blanc wondered whether they could freeze the whole world for a second and experience what people around the globe were doing at one very common moment. And they created a mobile photo app that enables participants around the world to shoot a photo at exactly the same instant. The results, participation from 80 countries, 66% increase in social media followers. The brand's thought starter was kind of major Uber idea that Google takes to their client is called help us discover the beauty of a forgotten familiar. Find something familiar in your product, brand, or in people's lives and help them see it in a fascinating new way. The second kind of insight was called synaptic play, or the play of the bricoleur, mythic thought, the child mind. Bricoleur has no precise equivalent in English. The French term originally referenced the creation of pots out of pot shards, or whatever bits of material lay at hand. Ultimately, a bricoleur is someone who fiddles and tinkers with the material at hand and makes creative and resourceful use of whatever materials are at hand, regardless of their original purpose. In creating contemporary visual culture in the digital space, people act as bricoleurs, searching various visual sites and borrowing imagery in order to convey and express meaning. Bricoleur references craft and contemporary visual storytelling is definitely a craft project for many, where the mixing and matching of imagery, text, and music is often a creative endeavor, producing new perceptions of the world and ourselves, communicating messages about who we are and what we value. So I was thinking about this idea of the bricoleur when I looked at imagery on the contemporary digital space. But I was also thinking about my background in the anthropology of religion. And this idea, it's called mythic thinking, primary thinking. Images of religious myth, of dreams, are vivid, often acoustic and tactile. They take bits and pieces of reality that come to hand from nature, from one's own experience, and use them selectively as sources of imagery. These all have a similar structure or form of expression. The form of bricolage or mythic thinking is simultaneous rather than linear. That is, mythic thinking, dream thinking, present a series of images with minimal connecting tissue, blurring one onto the other, juxtaposed one by the other. This is a form of play thinking, wherein reality is played with, recast, like breaking up a puzzle and throwing the pieces in the air. Pieces land out of order, but in a certain sense break an old mold to create something new, a collage of sorts of juxtaposed shapes and images. Children love to do collages, partly because it resonates with, is an expression of the way their minds are working. So what did Google do with this? One of the things they did was, in trawling through, scouring the digital advertising space, is find a couple of examples which seem to leverage this idea of what they call synaptic play, or mythical thinking, or the bricoleur mindset. One is Tipex, the European leader in correction products, who worked with Buzzman to launch an interactive campaign on YouTube. They wanted to give a complete sensation of freedom, with more than 45 scenes that could be unlocked by rewriting the title of the video. They made it possible for the user to interact not only with the video, but also with the entire YouTube page. And the results, more than 250,000 shares on Facebook, and up to 1 tweet per second on the campaign during the first 24 hours. So the kind of strategic insight that they bring to their clients, kind of various, whatever brands they're dealing with, is this idea of trying to spark synaptic play and participation. You see the brand started here. The last insight that Google took from the study that they could kind of boil down and use strategically. Also, I know a bunch of you are involved with startups and are on the user experience side. They're also doing design innovation, but I'm not really privy, I can't really talk about stuff like that right now. But this kind of area, very humanistic stuff, I'm free to talk about. Okay. The energy exchange. The spirit of the gift, sharing visual imagery, or the energy exchange. When we spoke about why people share certain imagery, some said that they did so in order to convince themselves that they were capable of happiness and fun. In visual social media, people did this by sharing images of happiness in the various guises it takes with others. And I don't know if I should go trolling through this, but I was going to show you images of, I can't find it right now, but there's this whole thing on YouTube. It's quite old now. Like, it's called Where the Hell is Matt? Where he's doing his little dance all over the world. And it's just a pure expression of his kind of joy at meeting other people, and just his spirit seems uplifted. He's jumping in the air. Anyway, I think what's happening is in visual social media, people like to share this sort of imagery because they're seeking to affirm the aliveness of their interior selves and of the inner lives of others through the sharing and storytelling. And one woman said this to me, which I like very much. She said to me, it's kind of a life lesson. I think that when we all put up pictures like this, it's like we're still showing that we still have it in us. It's like you lose something of that fun-seeking stuff when you're getting older. And I think I'm seeing that transition right now as my son is entering high school. I did not know that's when it happens, but it does. Then all of a sudden, it's real. Life is real. From now on, everything. Grades count, every sports thing, cutthroat. They're really cutthroat now in sports. And your fun factor has changed forever at this point. I think as adults, whenever we can have fun and show that we're having fun, it's like we're still alive here. When I think about it, when I send pictures out, I'm kind of portraying that sense of there's still this element in me, and I'm still alive. What we are saying, or what this woman was saying, what my other respondents were saying, is that I'm enriched and enlivened by imagery such as this. It brings a benefit to me. I wish for you to be enriched by it as well, so I will share it with you so you can experience my pleasure. This sharing is also an invitation on a number of levels. It is an invitation to initiate an exchange, or gift giving. It encouraged the recipient to repay the gift with a picture of his or her own. And so the exchange of pictures and information on the digital space has the to and fro quality of a game, like a tennis match going back and forth. It is an invitation to enter into a shared world of fellow feeling, commonality, and solidarity to form a digital community, and sometimes a real community. It is an invitation to happiness. This sense of aliveness, when gifted or sent to others, can also be thought of as an energy exchange. In the language of the visual web, when we share a video or an image, it means we're not just sharing the object, we're sharing the emotional response it creates. And that makes us that much happier, partly because it reinforces our social bonds. People also often seek to share the excitement and pleasure of discovery by exchanging pictures and videos. They seek to enliven others, to lift their mood by opening up a new aspect of the world to them. People also wish to give the gift of memory to others. Memory of an experience, memory of an event, memory of the way it once looked and felt, memories of the events and pleasures of a child's life. The gift of memory is a reminder to others and to ourselves of the fullness, the plenitude of a person's life. People are often, in digital social imagery, people are often reminding each other of and bringing each other back to their shared humanity when they exchange or share arresting visual imagery. So how did Google start to use this? The advertising space. Here's a couple of examples of advertising campaigns that they saw as tapping into the energy exchange. One is the Pepsi Max test drive. It's been up for a while. Pepsi kind of read that. Another is Perrier Liqueur. Each visit to Perrier's YouTube channel made the view counter rise. As this temperature rose, the video got hotter. The brand created a video that actually encouraged repeat viewing because the content was not static. There was a reason to keep coming back and sharing the video because the experience got progressively more intense. The result, over 11 million views on YouTube in 1 month. So the brand thought starter here is to gift happiness we can share in. Ditch the pitch, instead start an energy exchange. Create content that reminds us of our own capacity for excitement, happiness, and vivacity. So we want to share in it, and with it, and with others. So all that is going to boil down to these 3 talking points. Final thing I wanted to say is that there's kind of a use for academic anthropology or traditional anthropological ideas, even in the digital technical space, and that you know, a lot of these ideas are kind of really old hat in traditional anthropology or academic anthropology, but for a lot of my clients, they're still quite new, quite fresh, and so what I do is try to think like a brick wall and try to make these connections between what I was trained in and kind of transpose these ideas to a new kind of space. And one of the spaces that I'm trying to transfer to is the space of